Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button and keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy. Alright folks, here we are after market close on Friday, October 27th. We're going to take a look at 4 stocks that have earnings coming up: Pinterest, McDonald's, ZoomInfo, and Chegg. So kicking things off with Pinterest here, I tried to simplify the chart. This level, this 2354, is actually something that I've had on the chart for many months, maybe even over a year, and I left it there because that happened to be right where it had bounced recently. So that's the nearest in support level that I see to the upside. If it does push 25.21, 26.42 seems strong to me. There's probably some more granular levels in between each of these, but again, I tried to not clutter the chart too much. If it does lose price action and loses that 23.54, 21.85, and 20.64 seem to have potential for support. Now, if it does get a big push, this red area here, you see tremendous selling continuously taking place in this range from about 20, whatever this is, the high 28s, high 28s, up to about 29.50. So basically, as you approach 29 and then try to stretch to 29.50, for whatever reason, lots of people wanting to sell in that range. We'll see if eventually, if it does push up there again, if they can exhaust the selling pressure at that level and have maybe by the time it pushes through, it might have some relatively smooth sailing, or if it sticks there briefly, the push through it might feel like fairly strong and sudden. So we'll see, but it would have some work to do to get up there, obviously. I pulled in some info from MarketBeat as well. Analysts have a moderate buy rating currently with 30.3% upside. Just for a little over 4% of the shares being sold short, so nothing major there. Insiders selling a bit over 13 million sold last quarter. So take that for what you will, but I just thought I'd pull it in here as we were taking a look. Now, on the Thinkorswim setup, really dipped out of the lower bound of the channel, and this channel is quite wide. So interesting that it had such a strong motion down here as it pushed off the mid-range of the channel. So I'm interested to see if or when it's able to retest the mid-range of the channel, which is always what we look for. We see down here it had fell out of the bottom of the channel and spent several days there. So it can spend quite a bit of time outside of the channel. But eventually for it to make sort of a logical move into the channel, and then from there test the mid-range, which is the bright blue line here, and that's what we saw it do here, and was able to build support and actually pushed out of the upper bound of the channel. But then what happened? A quick retracement to the mid-range and then a push back down through. So I don't know if it'll spend several days out of the lower bound of the channel or sort of how this will play out. There isn't a huge amount of bearish momentum showing yet on the histogram. That said, it's been relatively flat since like late August on the histogram. The bullish pickups and the bearish pickups have been relatively moderate. So I'm not sure if it's just kind of waiting for the next catalyst, such as earnings, to make a move, or what the plan is there, but something to maybe watch as things play out. Okay, McDonald's. So let's flip over here and let's get McDonald's up on the Think or Swim study. So let's start on the Webull side of things. I do see a little bit of a potentially like a head and shoulders pattern that's set up here. You see the head, shoulder, and then it broke through really strongly when it broke. And so that's what the yellow line is indicating there. But that was, quite a significant sell-off. Basically took it from about this 275 level down to this 245 level. So, relatively big move for McDonald's. Now it is starting to claw back a bit of that. And so the nearest in levels that I see to the support side, 255.40, 245.81 if it dips again, which is pretty close into where it dipped previously. If it does start to push, 260.96 is where I'd expect to see some resistance, and then might have relatively smooth sailing through the 60s up to 270.54 and then 275.54. There's probably some sticky levels in between here, but I didn't want to clutter the chart too much, so I tried to refrain from putting in a ton of levels. But those were sort of the stronger ones that I pulled in. And then, of course, this potential for downtrend resistance. We'll see if that line presents that way if and when the price action comes up to it. I don't know yet. We'll have to see. But we have it there in case it does. Now, for market beat, we have the analysts coming in with a moderate buy rating with 24.5% of price to the upside. Barely anything being shorted at the moment, so that's not a big issue. And then insiders generally selling, about 6 million sold last quarter. Yes, I know that I've left the E off of moderate there. Scrambling to get this all together. But, you know, on that big sell-off, McDonald's fell out of the bottom of the channel. And what we always look for when that happens is for it to come back into the channel and test the mid-range. And that's what it's doing right now. So that's pretty interesting. It's not triggering yet on the TTM squeeze indicator, this was a good call out by the TTM squeeze indicator. Trigger and then fire. And when it fired, that's really when it pushed down through the lower bound of the channel and just absolutely crushed, you know, with the bears pulling in the momentum there. So really good call out there. It's not triggering yet. I wouldn't be surprised if it starts too soon, but I don't know. Just because it is pinned to the mid-range of the channel, and it has returned to the baseline on the histogram. So it definitely has opportunity to run in either direction. And with the earnings catalyst coming up, you know, that might provide an opportunity to do so. ZoomInfo. Now, ZoomInfo, we have a much longer term downtrend resistance that's signified up here. There's a gap that still has room to be filled in here, and another gap that's near in. Now, aside from that downtrend resistance, we have this current down channel, which is relatively new-ish. It's sort of in its nascent phase, but we'll see if it continues to play out or not. But it is sort of walking the price action down. Absent of a bunch of previous price action below where the price currently is, there wasn't a ton to pull from, so that's why I thought the channel might serve as some assistance there. If it does come up to fill the gap, that would start at about 2075 and then would fill at about 2491. So kind of a big ask at the moment, even off of a strong catalyst like earnings, if it's even reacted to that way. But just to note that that is there. The near in levels that I would see if it does push to the upside, some immediate resistance at 1552 and then at 1596, and then maybe some opportunity for smoother sailing 1734 and to 1858. But in between that 1596 and 1734, you would have this resistance of the channel to contend with. Now, if it continues to, if I guess the reaction is negative to earnings, I would look for potential support all along the trend line of the lower bound of this channel. But if not, and if it falls out of the bottom, then that could certainly be the case as well. I actually broadened this channel. I originally had it built here, but you know, like I said, because we don't have other price action to gauge off of below that like 1514 level, I thought we would broaden it out and kind of let that guide us a little bit. Okay, and on the think or swim side of things, we see it is obviously pressed to the lower bound of the channel at the moment, lost the mid-range back here, relatively just sitting at the baseline on the histogram after recently triggering and firing on the TTM squeeze indicator. So I don't know if there's still something more to be played out there, if it'll need to re-trigger and refire, but pretty confined channel at the moment as well. It's not, you know, it's not super wide like we saw up here. Pretty confined and just sort of walking the price down. So we'll see if that continues to play out or if it's able to get any support in that channel or not. Now Chegg, we see Chegg here, steep downtrend, and now sort of trying to build a base over 8, like between 8 and 850 at the moment. We'll see if it's able to continue to do that, you know, depending on the reaction to earnings. If it does, it would need to get support over that 856 level as I see it, and then it might have the opportunity to push toward that 925. If it gets that, 980 and 1039. If it does slip, 788 might sort of come in and make sense. And then I did put a few others down here, 731 and 651 as well, if it loses even further price action. So you see sort of how confined it is in this space at the moment. Now, if it does get a huge and longer sustained push up, there is still a gap that's only been partially filled. So to finish filling it, it would enter at about 1311 and would fill it out at 1742. The info from Market Beat, just to note it, analysts coming in with a hold rating with 102% upside. So until they revise their ratings, that's still where they have the price pegged. Just a little over 5.5% of the float shorted, so nothing major there. Insiders generally selling a little bit, 24,000 sold last quarter, so also nothing sort of tremendous there. We'll pull in Chegg on the Think or Swim study. And here we see, it's been pinned between the mid-range of the channel and the lower bound for quite a while. And then just recently was able to, with this sideways action, it was able to sidestep itself to retest the mid-range of the channel, which is where it is right now. And that's always sort of a critical moment. What's it going to do when it retests the mid-range? Is it going to push off and find further resistance there? Is it going to be able to pin itself to it sort of delay a reaction, if you will? Or is it going to flip it to support and be able to push toward the upper bound of the channel? That's sort of what we're waiting to find out. I would imagine with a strong catalyst like earnings coming up, that might help clarify those things more concretely in the days ahead. Also of interest, TTM squeeze indicator triggering, putting in 4 trigger candles at the moment as the bearish momentum seems to be dying down still, but is not quite yet to the baseline. So we'll see if that brings anything when that TTM squeeze indicator starts to fire. All right, folks, I hope that you have an enjoyable weekend. And as always, I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.